So welcome back to the channel, How To Done Right. You guys all have seen some of my wine videos, and I get a lot of questions. What if I can't get these? What are some substitutes I can use? Well, we're gonna show you today with these and give you some great tips and some wine hacks. But this video is for everybody. When you can't get these, I'll show you what to do. Stay tuned, click that like and subscribe button, and let's get right into this video of wine hacks.
Move, baby, move any way you need. How do you do it, darling? Got me on my knees, on my feet.
We got subscribers from all over the world in this channel, from Africa to India, Australia, the UK, Canada, and so many more. Thank you all for subscribing to this channel. Look at this. We're going to take our standard chemicals and swap them out for some different things that will work if you can't get them. All right, I get a lot of questions that I don't have Amazon or I can't get to the links that you have in your description. Where do I buy this stuff, or where can I find substitutes for it? Well, today we're going to go over each ingredient and I'm going to give you some great tips. You don't need all this. There's workarounds for it. So let's go over each one of these individually and I'll give you tips and how to do this without buying these chemicals. So you all watch some of my wine videos, and these are my base additives for making wine from beginning to end. I have access to get all these. I wouldn't change my process, but I know some of you can't. These are not readily available in your country, or hard to find, or hard to get. So I'm going to start with one of them here. We're going to start with the Camden Tablets. So let's go over. Here's my Camden Tablets. What are they used for? Number one, you gotta sanitize your fruit. If you're making wine from fruit, fresh fruit, you gotta be able to sanitize it. You wanna kill that wild yeast, and you want your yeast to do most of the work. Now, if you're not making wine from fruit, you don't need these. If you're using juice, most of it's pasteurized, and you won't need to use Camden Tablets. But if you're using fruit, you gotta use this or something in its place. And that substitute would be potassium metabisulfite or sodium metabisulfite. Now, these are available in most drugstores, so you won't have problem finding this. So what is sodium and potassium metabisulfite? All it is the powder form of your Camden Tablets. So it's the exact same thing. That's why you can substitute this for the Camden Tablets and you'll come up with the same result. Those two chemicals are readily available in any drugstore. Anybody should be able to get this to sanitize their fruit and to sanitize their wine. So if you have allergies to these sulfites, what else can you do? Well, there's another option, is to pasteurize your wine. Pasteurization will basically kill all that wild yeast and any bacteria that you have. You take your must, once it's all chopped up, and you heat it up to 145 degrees, and you want to keep that temperature for about 20 minutes, and that should get rid of all your bacteria and kill that wild yeast that you don't want in there that can cause some problems. Now, another thing that you gotta sanitize in the wine hobby. I love Star San. I wouldn't go without it. But again, there's alternatives to this. The alternative is the same thing that we're using with our Camden Tablets. You can create a rinse out of that sodium and potassium metabisulfite and create a rinse to sanitize all your equipment. It'll do just as fine of a job as the Star San. Use the same thing you're using to replace your Camden Tablets to rinse off your equipment and get everything sanitized. All right, when you get to the end process and you want to filter your wine and get all that fine particles out, you know I use Bentonite. I love this stuff, but there's alternatives to this too. Number one, you could just keep racking and racking and racking your wine until you get all those fine particles. That's going to take you a little bit longer than if you're using bentonite, but it will work. I've done it many times in the past. Before I discovered bentonite, that's how I did it. But there's other ways. Some people use egg whites. I had a subscriber say you use bananas. I'm going to kind of test that one out. I don't want you to try that one until I test it to verify that it works. There's gelatin. People will use that. Some people use carbon and skim milk too. I don't have any experience with that because, again, I can get to this bentonite, which I love. But there is ways. Like I said, you don't need to. Just keep racking your wine several times. This I can usually go with about 2 rackings and my wine be ready. But if you go to 4 and 5 rackings, you're going to eventually get all those fine particles out. So one of the other chemicals that I love to use is yeast nutrient. I know some of you can't get that, and there's workarounds for this too. Basically, this is going to feed your yeast and keep it going and getting it, everything working properly. One of the best things to replace yeast nutrient, if you can get it in your country or wherever you live, is brewer's yeast. That will work just the same as yeast nutrient. So a lot of people, instead of yeast nutrient, they'll make up a batch of black tea. And that will work. Do your research on this to show you how to use the black tea, because I don't have a lot of experience in that because I can get the yeast nutrient. Some people will use lemon juice, and then others will use raisins. These will be great for yeast nutrient as well. So another alternative to using yeast nutrient, if you can't find it, most likely you have a grocery store nearby and you can go buy some bread yeast, the cheapest kind you can find. Put a little bit in some boiling water and boil it for about 5 minutes, and that is great food for your yeast that you're going to add to your wine. All right, so then we got wine tannin. What can we use in replace of this if you can't get it? Well, strong black tea is highly recommended. You want to take about 4 tea bags and make about a cup of tea and make it real strong. And you want to add a couple of tablespoons of that into your wine must. Wine tannin is going to give you that complexity of your wine and the acid that you need to get in there. Acid blend, again, it's not a critical element to add. Another thing you can use if you can't get wine tannins, and these will work. Raisins will add some tannins, plus sugar, some flavor. So raisins have a lot of uses when you're making wine from home. So another key ingredient, in my opinion, for making wine is pectic enzyme. It's not needed if you're making wine with juice, but if you're using fruit, it definitely does help. It's not a necessity, but it's going to help clear and clarify your wine in the very beginning. There's not many substitutes for it, but I will show you one. It's papaya peel. So what you want to do is peel your papaya, and you want that greenish skin. That's what you want to put into your must. And that will work in replace of the pectic enzyme if you can't find that. So one of the last ingredients that I use is potassium sorbate, which is called stabilizer. It's a must if you're going to back sweeten your wine. Unfortunately, there's not many substitutes for this, but there's workarounds. If you're not going to back sweeten your wine and you feel like you've got all that sugar converted to alcohol, you're not going to need this. So maybe you bottle it as a dry wine and then sweeten it when you open it up with maybe some simple syrup or something to add your sweetness. But again, you don't need this if you're going to make a dry wine. Potassium sorbate. It's basically to make your yeast a little harder to multiply, and it will also help your sugars not to produce more alcohol and carbon dioxide blowing corks. That's what you're trying to eliminate with stabilizer. Acid blend. This is what's going to give your wine some flavor. You want to add acid blend if you can find it. But again, there's alternatives to this, which is lemons. Lemon juice will give you a great replacement for acid blend. Basically, you want to take 2 tablespoons for every teaspoon of acid blend that's in my recipe. I'll put the recipes and everything down below, but Again, lemons. Everybody can get lemons. You can use these instead of the acid blend. Acid blends are going to give you that sharp, crisp taste and balance that sweetness that's going to be in your wine. So I hope you like some of these alternatives, from using raisin and black tea and the sodium and potassium metabisulfite that you can find in any drugstore to sanitize your wines, and also the lemons. As we progress in this channel, we're going to use some of this. I want to show you that it's going to work. You know, you don't need a lot of those fancy chemicals and additives that I use. You can get away with using some of these natural products with no issues. So again, thanks for watching the channel. Stay tuned. Make sure you click that like and subscribe button. It's down below. The channel appreciates it. And I can't wait to see you till next time. Have a great week and enjoy your winemaking.
Move, baby.